What if Order 66 failed and Jedi went to war? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. The holographic image of Emperor Palpatine flickers across thousands of command bridges throughout the galaxy, his yellow eyes gleaming with malevolent satisfaction. His voice, cold and commanding, echoes through the communication channels like a death knell. Execute Order 66. The words that should have spelled doom for the Jedi Order hang in the air like a death sentence, reverberating through the minds of millions of clone troopers across countless worlds. But something is different this time. Something has gone terribly wrong with the Emperor's perfect plan. On Cato Neimoidia, Commander Cody stands on the command bridge of his ATTE Walker, his DC-15A blaster rifle trained on Obi-Wan Kenobi's unsuspecting form. The Jedi Master stands on a cliff ledge several hundred meters away, surveying the battlefield where Republic forces have just secured another victory against the Separatists. Cody's finger moves toward the trigger, his face contorting as the inhibitor chip sends electrical pulses through his brain. But instead of the smooth execution of the order, something fights back. "Sir, are you all right?" asks CT 2224, one of Cody's most trusted troopers, noticing his commander's distress. Cody drops his weapon, clutching his head as memories flood back. Memories that the chip was supposed to suppress. Memories of fives, of warnings ignored, of late-night conversations about the true purpose of the inhibitor chips. "Don't shoot," he gasps, his voice strained with effort. "Protect the General. Something's wrong with the Order." The troopers around him exchange confused glances. Some still feel the compulsion to follow Order 66, their chips functioning as intended. But others, those who had listened to Five's warnings months ago and had their chips quietly removed by sympathetic medical personnel, stand ready to defend their Jedi commander. "But sir," protests one trooper, his rifle still aimed at Obi-Wan. "The order came directly from the Supreme Chancellor." "The order is wrong," Cody shouts, his training as a free-thinking tactical commander overriding the artificial compulsion. "Since when do we execute our own generals without trial or evidence of treason?" Across the galaxy, similar scenes of confusion and resistance unfold. On Kashyyyk, Commander Gree receives the same transmission, his hand moving instinctively toward his sidearm as he spots Master Yoda's diminutive form consulting with Chewbacca and Tarful about Wookiee defensive positions. But as Gree draws his weapon, the ancient Jedi Master turns slowly, his ancient eyes filled with infinite sadness. "Struggle with your orders, you do, Commander," Yoda observes, his Heimer stick tapping against the wooden platform. "Feel the conflict in your mind." "I can." Gree's hand shakes violently, the blaster trembling in his grip. Sweat beads on his forehead as he fights an internal war between artificial programming and natural loyalty. I can't do it, General. Something's wrong with this order. This isn't right." Yoda approaches slowly, his presence in the Force calm and reassuring. "Feel it too, I do, Commander. Betrayed, we have been, but not by you, by one we trusted most." The reason for this widespread failure of Order 66 traces back months earlier to the desperate investigation of ARC Trooper Fives. In the original timeline, Fives died alone, his warnings dismissed as the ravings of a soldier driven mad by stress. But in this reality, the determined trooper managed to get word to more than just Captain Rex before his tragic death. During his final days, while evading capture on Coruscant. Fives had contacted several clone commanders he had served alongside during the war. Men like Cody, Gree, Wolf, and Bly. Though many initially dismissed his claims about inhibitor chips and secret programming, some began discreet investigations of their own. Commander Cody, in particular, had been troubled by inconsistencies in the official reports about Five's death. Working in secret, medical droid Kix had been quietly removing chips from clone officers who requested it, using sterilization procedures as cover for the minor surgery. The process was dangerous and had to be done in complete secrecy. But Kix's medical expertise and access to advanced surgical equipment made it possible. By the time Order 66 was transmitted, roughly 30% of the clone army's command structure had been freed from the chip's influence. It wasn't enough to stop the Order entirely, but it was enough to create chaos in the ranks and save hundreds of Jedi who would otherwise have perished in the initial wave of executions. On Maigito, Commander Bakara receives the order while engaged in urban warfare against separatist droid forces alongside Jedi Master Ki-Adi-Mundi. The Syrian Jedi is coordinating a flanking maneuver when Bakara's comlink crackles with Palpatine's command. Bakara draws his weapon, but hesitates as he looks at the Jedi Master, who has led them through countless battles. "General," Bakara calls out, his voice tight with internal conflict. "We need to talk." Ki-Adi-Mundi turns, immediately sensing the disturbance in the Force around his clone commander. "What troubles you, Commander? Has there been a change in our orders?" "You could say that," Bakara replies grimly. "The Chancellor has just ordered all clone forces to execute their Jedi commanders for treason against the Republic." The words hang in the air between them. Ki-Adi-Mundi's large eyes widen in shock, while several nearby clone troopers shift uncomfortably, their weapons half raised as they struggle with conflicting loyalties. "And what is your assessment of this order, Commander?" the Jedi Master asks calmly, though his hand moves subtly toward his lightsaber. Bakara holsters his weapon deliberately. "My assessment is that someone's been playing a very long game, and we've all been pawns in it. Fives tried to warn us, and we didn't listen." Meanwhile, in the sacred halls of the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, a very different scene is unfolding. Anakin Skywalker stands in the youngling training chamber, his lightsaber trembling in his hands, as dozens of small faces look up at him with trust and innocent curiosity. The blue blade hums ominously in the dim light, casting dancing shadows on the ancient walls. Palpatine's words echo in his mind. "Go to the Jedi Temple. Do what must be done. Do not hesitate. Show no mercy." But as Anakin looks into the eyes of the children, something breaks inside him. The vision of Padme dying in childbirth, the promise of power to save her, the seductive whispers of the dark side, all seem suddenly hollow and manipulative. "Master Skywalker," asks a young Twi'lek girl, her voice filled with concern. "What's wrong? You look sad." Anakin deactivates his lightsaber and sinks to his knees, the weight of what he almost did crushing down upon him like a physical force. The children gather around him, their small hands reaching out to comfort their distressed teacher. I can't believe. His voice trails off as the true horror of his near betrayal sinks in. These children trusted him, looked up to him, saw him as a protector and guide. and he had been prepared to murder them all for the promise of power from a man who had been manipulating him for over a decade. "We need to get you all to safety," Anakin says, his voice gaining strength and resolve. "The Chancellor has betrayed us all. He's not who we thought he was." Master Shaak Ti emerges from the shadows of the training chamber, her lightsaber already ignited, her red skin flushed with confusion and anger. "Skywalker, what's the meaning of this? You were supposed to secure the temple and eliminate any resistance to the new order." She stops as she sees the anguish in Anakin's eyes, the way he protectively positions himself between her and the younglings. Through the Force, she can feel the swirling conflict in his mind, the way he's fighting against some external influence. "You feel it too, don't you?" Anakin asks, his voice barely above a whisper, the darkness clouding everything. The way the Force itself seems to be screaming in pain. Shaak Ti's expression softens as she recognizes the truth in his words. She had felt it too, the disturbance that had been growing stronger over the past few hours. Something fundamental had shifted in the balance of the Force, something that made her skin crawl with dread. "Palpatine is Sidious," Anakin continues, the words tumbling out as if saying them aloud makes them more real. "He's been playing us all along." The visions of Padme dying in childbirth, the promises of power to save her, they were all manipulations designed to turn me to the dark side and make me his apprentice. The revelation hits Shaak Ti like a physical blow. She staggers backward, her mind racing as pieces of a vast puzzle suddenly click into place. The way Palpatine had always seemed to know exactly where to deploy Jedi forces for maximum effect. His uncanny ability to predict separatist movements, the gradual erosion of clone loyalty that had been reported by various commanders over the past few months. "The inhibitor chips," she breathes. "Fives was right all along." Meanwhile, in the Chancellor's office high atop the Senate building, Master Windu's strike team faces a very different situation than in the original timeline. Kit Fisto, Aegon Kolar, and Saesee Tiin are still alive and fighting as Mace engages Emperor Palpatine in lightsaber combat. The revelation of Palpatine's true identity as Darth Sidious had come as a shock, but not a complete surprise to the experienced Jedi Masters. "You're under arrest, my lord," Mace declares, his purple blade locked against Palpatine's crimson saber in a test of strength and will. The air around them crackles with Force energy as two masters of the ancient arts clash. "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?" Palpatine snarls, his kindly Chancellor facade completely abandoned in favor of the twisted visage of a Sith Lord. His yellow eyes burn with malevolent fire as he pushes back against Windu's blade. "The Senate will decide your fate," Mace replies, his Vapad fighting style allowing him to channel Palpatine's dark side energy back against him. "I am the Senate," Palpatine roars, breaking the blade lock and unleashing a torrent of Force lightning that illuminates the office with crackling blue energy. Kit Fisto and Aegon Kolar move to flank the Sith Lord, their lightsabers weaving defensive patterns as they deflect the electrical assault. Saesee Tiin, meanwhile, uses the Force to hurl office furniture at Palpatine, forcing him to divide his attention between multiple attackers. But as the battle rages, the sound of running footsteps echoes from the outer office. The doors burst open as Obi-Wan Kenobi rushes into the chamber, his robes singed from battle, followed closely by Commander Cody and a squad of loyal clone troopers. from the 212th Attack Battalion. "Master Windu," Obi-Wan calls out, igniting his lightsaber as he takes in the scene. "We know the truth about the chips. The clones are fighting back." Behind them, Captain Rex and several members of the 500 and Honest Legion pour into the office, their blasters trained on Palpatine. "Sir," Rex reports to Obi-Wan, "Temple security is holding for now, but we've got Imperial forces massing outside. They're calling in everything they've got." The tide of battle shifts dramatically as 5 Jedi Masters and a squad of clone troopers surround the Dark Lord of the Sith. Palpatine's eyes dart around the room, calculating odds and escape routes with the cold precision of a predator suddenly finding itself outnumbered. "This isn't over," he snarls, raising his hands to unleash another barrage of Force lightning. But instead of attacking the Jedi, he turns his power on the massive windows behind his desk, shattering them in an explosion of transparent steel and duracrete. With inhuman agility, Palpatine leaps through the opening and plummets toward the traffic lanes of Coruscant far below. But rather than falling to his death, he uses the Force to guide himself into the passenger compartment of a passing speeder, whose pilot is revealed to be a red-robed Imperial Guard. Escape pods are launching from the Imperial Palace. Commander Cody reports, his helmet's sensors tracking multiple small craft fleeing the Senate district. "He's getting away!" Mace Windu's face is grim as he watches the Sith Lord disappear into the maze of Coruscant's skyways. No, he's not escaping. He's regrouping. This was never about a simple coup. This is the beginning of something much larger. As if to confirm his words, Palpatine's voice suddenly echoes across every communication channel in the galaxy. Emergency broadcasts interrupt regular programming on thousands of worlds as the Emperor's face appears on screens from the core worlds to the Outer Rim. "Citizens of the galaxy," Palpatine begins, his voice carrying the measured authority of a leader addressing his people in their darkest hour. "I come before you today to reveal a terrible truth. The Jedi Order, which we have trusted to keep the peace for over 1,000 years, has committed an act of treason so heinous that it shakes the very foundations of our Republic." The transmission shows carefully edited footage of the Jedi Masters in his office, their lightsabers drawn and attacking what appears to be a defenseless old man. The context of his Sith identity is carefully omitted, making the Jedi appear to be unprovoked aggressors. "These so-called guardians of peace have attempted to assassinate me and overthrow the legitimate government of the Galactic Republic. Even now, they hold the Senate building by force, preventing our elected representatives from carrying out the will of the people." On countless worlds, citizens watch in shock and confusion as their trusted protectors are suddenly branded as traitors. Some refuse to believe it, having worked alongside Jedi during the Clone Wars and seen their dedication to justice firsthand. But others, particularly those in the core worlds where Palpatine's influence runs deepest, accept the Emperor's version of events without question. Therefore, Palpatine continues, his voice growing stronger and more authoritative, "I am declaring a state of emergency and calling upon all loyal citizens of the Republic to resist the Jedi Rebellion. Our clone forces have been ordered to apprehend these traitors, but the Jedi's mystical powers make them extremely dangerous. Do not attempt to confront them yourselves. Trust in your government and in the brave soldiers who fight to protect you." In the chaos that follows the broadcast, The galaxy splits apart along lines that had been forming for years beneath the surface. Some clone units, their chips still functional, immediately turn on their Jedi commanders and attempt to carry out Order 66. But others, freed from the artificial compulsion, stand with their generals and prepare to fight against what they now recognize as an illegitimate regime on Coruscant. The Coruscant Guard, led by Commander Fox, and still under the influence of their inhibitor chips, launches an assault on the Jedi Temple. Their red-marked armor gleams in the setting sun as they march up the temple steps, accompanied by the newly formed Imperial stormtroopers and supported by LAT gunships and ATTE walkers. But defending the temple is the 500 and Honest Legion, now led by Captain Rex and fighting alongside the surviving Jedi. The blue-marked troopers who had once served as Anakin's personal unit have become the backbone of Jedi resistance. Their loyalty to their generals stronger than any artificial programming. "For the Republic!" Rex shouts as he leads a charge down the temple steps, his dual pistols blazing as he engages the approaching Coruscant Guard. "For our Jedi!" Blaster fire echoes through the sacred halls. As brother fights brother, the artificial divisions created by the inhibitor chips tearing apart bonds forged in the crucible of war. The sound of screaming metal and exploding ordnance mingles with the hum of lightsabers as Jedi Knights leap into the fray, their ancient weapons cutting through both droids and living opponents with equal efficiency. Master Yoda, having commandeered a Republic cruiser on Kashyyyk with the help of Commander Gree and his loyal troopers, arrives in orbit just as the battle for the temple reaches its climax. The ancient Jedi Master surveys the battlefield below with heavy eyes, his force-enhanced senses picking up the pain and confusion of millions of beings across the galaxy. Failed. Order 66 has. He observes to Commander Gree as they watch the feed from the temple's security cameras. But begun, a greater war has. The diminutive Jedi Master ignites his lightsaber and prepares to leap into the fray, but Gree places a restraining hand on his shoulder. "General, with respect, charging into that mess isn't going to help anyone. We need a plan." Yoda nods slowly, recognizing the wisdom in the clone commander's words. "Right, you are. Think, we must, but quickly. Losing the temple, afford we cannot." The Jedi Council convenes in emergency session in a secure bunker beneath the temple, accessed through hidden passages that most attackers don't know exist. The survivors include Yoda, Mace Windu, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Shak Ti, Ki Adi Mundi, Plo Koon, Luminara Unduli, and Anakin Skywalker. The tension in the small chamber is palpable as they debate their next move, while the sounds of battle rage overhead. "We cannot simply go into hiding," Mace argues, his voice filled with barely controlled anger. His lightsaber lies on the table before him, its purple blade reflecting the emergency lighting. Palpatine has corrupted the very foundations of the Republic. He's turned our own soldiers against us and branded us as traitors. We must strike back with everything we have. Obi-Wan shakes his head vigorously, his hands clasped behind his back as he paces the small chamber. "Master Windu, if we resort to open warfare, how are we any different from the Sith? We are peacekeepers, not conquerors. Our strength comes from our moral authority, not our ability to wage war. Moral authority means nothing if we're all dead." Ki Adi Mundi interjects, his tall form casting long shadows on the walls. "Palpatine has spent years poisoning the galaxy against us. Half the Senate probably believes his version of events, and the other half is too terrified to speak against him. Luminara Unduli leans forward, her tattooed face grave with concern. What about the younglings and Padawans? They cannot be part of this fight, whatever we decide. Their training is incomplete, and they would be slaughtered if they faced Imperial forces. Peaceful solutions tried we have, Yoda interjects sadly, his gimmer stick tapping against the floor. Failed, they have. Consumed by darkness, the Republic Island fight we must, or consumed we will be as well. Anakin steps forward, his face etched with determination and lingering guilt over his near betrayal. I know Palpatine better than anyone in this room. I know his strategies, his hiding places, his allies. I know how he thinks, how he plans, how he manipulates people. If we're going to war, you'll need someone who understands how his mind works. Plo Koon's mechanical breathing apparatus hisses as he considers Anakin's words. The question is whether we can trust your judgment, young Skywalker. You came very close to falling to the dark side. How do we know you won't be tempted again? Because I've seen what that path leads to. Anakin replies firmly. I stood in that youngling training chamber with my lightsaber in my hand, ready to murder children for the promise of power. I looked into their innocent faces and realized that everything Palpatine had told me was a lie. The dark side doesn't give you power to save the people you love. It turns you into someone who destroys them. Shakti nods in agreement. I was there. I felt his struggle through the Force. Skywalker chose light over darkness when it mattered most. The question remains, Obi-Wan says, what kind of war are we prepared to fight? If we become ruthless, if we abandon our principles in the name of victory, then Palpatine wins even if we defeat him. There's another consideration, Ki-Adi-Mundi adds. We're not just fighting the Empire, we're fighting for the hearts and minds of the galaxy. Palpatine has spent decades positioning himself as the legitimate government. If we want to overthrow him, we need to prove that we represent something better. Mace slams his fist on the table, causing several holocrons to rattle. While we debate philosophy, our people are dying. The longer we wait, the stronger Palpatine becomes. He's had years to prepare for this moment. Then we don't fight his war, Anakin says suddenly, an idea forming in his mind. We don't try to match him in brutality or propaganda. We do what Jedi do best. We protect the innocent. We stand up to tyrants. And we inspire others to be better than they thought they could be. Yoda's ears perk up with interest. Speak more of this. You should. Palpatine's power comes from fear. Anakin continues, his voice gaining confidence. Fear of the Separatists. Fear of chaos. Fear of losing what people have. But we represent hope. We show people that there's something worth fighting for beyond just survival. The debate continues through the night. But by dawn, the decision is made. The Jedi Order officially declares war on Emperor Palpatine and his galactic empire. But it will be unlike any war the galaxy has ever seen. They will fight not to conquer, but to liberate. Not to destroy, but to protect. And they will inspire others to join them not through fear or propaganda, but through the power of their example. The first major operation takes place on Kamino, the oceanic world where the clone army was born. Intelligence reports indicate that Palpatine is accelerating clone production and implementing new programming designed to make the soldiers completely loyal to the Empire, rather than to their Jedi commanders. Obi-Wan leads the strike force, his modified Republic cruiser emerging from hyperspace above the storm-lashed world. The ship has been hastily repainted with new markings, a stylized Jedi emblem surrounded by stars representing the worlds that have declared their support for the Republic in exile. Kamino Control. This is General Kenobi of the Free Republic Fleet. Obi-Wan broadcasts as they approach the cloning facilities. We're here to liberate your facilities from Imperial occupation. The response comes not from the Kaminoans, but from an Imperial Navy captain whose Star Destroyer lurks in orbit on the far side of the planet. Unknown vessel, you are in violation of Imperial space. Stand down and prepare to be boarded. I don't think so. Rex replies from the gunner's position, his hands steady on the turbolaser controls. General, we've got TIE fighters launching from that Star Destroyer. The ocean world becomes a battlefield as Imperial forces clash with Jedi-led troops in the skies above the floating cities. The distinctive scream of TIE fighters mingles with the roar of Republic-era starfighters as pilots from both sides engage in desperate aerial combat above the churning waves. Obi-Wan's lightsaber flashes blue as he leads a boarding party onto one of Kamino's primary platforms. Imperial stormtroopers, their white armor pristine and unmarked, pour out of defensive positions to engage the attacking force. But they quickly discover that fighting clone troopers is very different from fighting battle droids. These aren't the same clones we fought alongside during the war, observes Commander Bly, who had joined the Resistance after his chip was removed on Felucia. They move differently, think differently. The Imperials have done something to their training. The battle for Kamino's platforms rages for 3 days, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. The floating cities become scenes of intense urban warfare, as clone fights clone in the sterile corridors and laboratories where they were created. The sound of blaster fire echoes constantly, punctuated by the crash of breaking glass and the hiss of severed power cables. On the 3rd day, Shaak Ti confronts the Kaminoan leadership in the primary cloning facility. The tall, graceful beings stand in their gleaming laboratory, watching with alien detachment as the battle rages around their carefully constructed world. You will cease all clone production for the Empire, she demands, her lightsaber humming ominously as she advances on Prime Minister Lama Su. These soldiers were created to serve the Republic and protect the innocent, not to enforce the will of a Sith tyrant. Lama Su's large, dark eyes regard her with the cold calculation of a scientist examining a specimen. The contract is with the legitimate government of the galaxy. We cannot simply break our agreements because you disapprove of recent political developments. The legitimate government was overthrown by a Sith Lord. Shaak Ti interrupts, her patience wearing thin. Palpatine has revealed himself as Darth Sidious, the very enemy the Republic was created to fight against. Politics are not our concern, Lama Su replies smoothly. We create soldiers. Others decide how they are used. The Togruta Jedi Master's expression hardens. Then you are complicit in their enslavement. You will help us free these clones from their programming, or you will be considered enemies of the Jedi Order. The threat hangs in the air between them. But before Lama Su can respond, alarms begin blaring throughout the facility. Emergency lights bathe the laboratory in pulsing red illumination as automated systems announce an incoming hyperspace signature. Imperial reinforcements, reports Commander Cody over the comm. Looks like a full battle group. We need to evacuate now. But Shaak Ti isn't ready to retreat. Not without the genetic templates and cloning data. If we can't stop them from making more clones, we can at least ensure they don't create any more slaves. The Jedi strike team races through the facility's corridors, downloading critical data and planting charges on the primary cloning tanks. The sterile halls that had once seemed so peaceful now echo with the sounds of war as Imperial reinforcements begin landing on the platforms outside. In the primary genetics laboratory, Shakti makes a discovery that chills her to the bone. Rows upon rows of cloning tanks contain not just the familiar forms of Jango Fett clones, but something new. These clones are younger, their growth artificially accelerated, and their brain patterns show signs of even more intensive conditioning than the original clone army. They're building an army of children, she whispers, in horror, her hand pressed against one of the tanks. Inside, a clone no older than 10 floats in the artificial amniotic fluid, his features already showing signs of the rapid aging that will compress his entire life into a few decades of service. The implications are staggering. Not only is Palpatine creating more soldiers, he's creating them to be even more compliant, even more disposable than the original clones. These new soldiers will know nothing but loyalty to the Empire, having never experienced the camaraderie and independent thinking that had allowed many original clones to resist Order 66. Download everything, Shakti orders, her voice tight with controlled rage. Every file, every genetic sequence, every piece of data they have, and then we burn this place to the ground. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Anakin leads a daring raid on the Imperial Palace, using his intimate knowledge of the building's layout. The massive structure, once the seat of democracy, has been transformed into a fortress bristling with defensive systems and patrolled by legions of stormtroopers. The service tunnels should get us past the main security checkpoints, Anakin explains to his strike team as they move through the lower levels of the city planet. Palpatine showed me these passages years ago, back when I thought he was trying to help me understand the political process. The team consists of some of the Order's most skilled fighters, Ahsoka Tano, who had returned to help despite officially leaving the Jedi, Quinlan Vos with his exceptional tracking abilities, and Aayla Secura, whose tactical genius had saved countless lives during the Clone Wars. They're supported by a squad of 500 and honest troopers led by Captain Rex, all of whom have had their inhibitor chips removed. As they penetrate deeper into the palace, they encounter signs of the massive changes Palpatine has implemented since revealing his true nature. The once elegant corridors are now patrolled by red-robed Imperial guards and equipped with automated defense systems. Propaganda holos show idealized images of Imperial stormtroopers bringing order to chaotic worlds, while somber music plays the new Imperial anthem. "This place gives me the creeps," Ahsoka mutters, her twin lightsabers held ready as they move through a marble hallway lined with statues of historical figures. "It feels like the dark side is seeping out of the walls." "That's because it is," Anakin replies grimly. "Palpatine has been feeding off the fear and anger of billions of people for years. This building is like a focus point for all that negative energy." As they approach the restricted levels where intelligence suggests Palpatine maintains his private offices and meditation chambers, they encounter their first serious resistance. A squad of Imperial guards, their faces hidden behind crimson masks, emerges from concealed positions, with vibro weapons crackling with energy. The battle is swift and brutal. The Imperial guards are skilled fighters, trained in anti-force user tactics, and equipped with weapons designed to counter lightsabers. But they're facing some of the most experienced Jedi Knights in the galaxy, veterans of the Clone Wars who have faced everything from Sith Lords to droid armies. Quinlan Vos moves like a shadow, his unconventional fighting style confusing the guards as he weaves between their attacks. Ayla Secura fights with mechanical precision, her blue lightsaber deflecting blaster bolts back at her attackers while she uses the Force to predict their movements. And Ahsoka, despite her youth, displays the creativity and adaptability that had made her one of the war's most effective commanders. But as they defeat the guards and continue deeper into the palace, they encounter a figure that none of them expected. Emerging from the shadows of what was once the Chancellor's private office is a tall form, clad in black armor and cape, a red lightsaber casting an ominous glow in the darkened chamber. Darth Vader. Anakin breathes, but something is wrong. The armor is similar to what he had seen in his darkest visions, but the proportions are different. This figure is taller, broader, with 4 arms instead of 2. The mask retracts, revealing a face that causes Anakin's blood to run cold. "Hello, Skywalker," says Ponkrell, the Basilisk Jedi who had fallen to the dark side during the Clone Wars. "I told you we would meet again, Master Krell," Anakin says, his hand moving to his lightsaber. "I thought you were dead." "Death was merely a doorway to greater understanding," Krell replies, his 4 arms igniting twin red lightsabers with practiced ease. "The Emperor has shown me the true nature of power, the futility of the Jedi's weak philosophies. The duel that follows is unlike anything in Anakin's experience." Krell's 4 arms move with inhuman speed and coordination, his twin lightsabers creating a web of crimson energy that seems impossible to penetrate. The fallen Jedi has been enhanced with Sith alchemy and cybernetic implants, making him faster and stronger than he ever was in life. "You could have had this power too," Krell taunts as his blades clash against Anakin's defensive posture. "The Emperor offered you everything, and you threw it away for sentiment and weakness. I chose to protect the innocent," Anakin replies, his blue blade moving in defensive patterns as he looks for an opening. "You chose to serve a monster." The battle ranges through the private office, destroying priceless artifacts and furniture, as the 2 former Jedi clash with the fury of opposing philosophies. Krell's size and reach advantage force Anakin to rely on speed and agility, while the fallen Jedi's multiple weapons make conventional defensive techniques ineffective. But Anakin has learned much since his days as a young knight. His time training with the younglings, his experience leading men in battle, his brush with the dark side and conscious rejection of it, all combine to give him a clarity and focus that he had never possessed before. "You're fighting for the past," Anakin observes as he finds his rhythm, his lightsaber beginning to penetrate Krell's defenses. "For old grudges and ancient hatreds. I'm fighting for the future." With a sudden burst of speed enhanced by the Force, Anakin slips inside Krell's guard and delivers a precise strike that severs 2 of the fallen Jedi's arms. The cyborg Sith staggers backward, his remaining weapons sparking as damaged systems fail. "The Emperor will not be pleased," Krell gasps as he falls to his knees. "Then he can join you," Anakin replies, delivering the killing blow. As the strike team secures the area and begins downloading intelligence data from Palpatine's private computers, they make several disturbing discoveries. The Emperor has been in contact with surviving separatist leaders, offering them amnesty in exchange for their fleets and armies. More troubling still, there are references to something called the Tarkin Doctrine, and construction projects with names like Death Star and Star Forge. He's not just trying to maintain power. Ahsoka observes as she reviews the intercepted communications. He's planning something much bigger. Something that will make the Clone Wars look like a minor skirmish. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the conflict spreads as various worlds choose sides in the emerging galactic civil war. Senator Padme Amidala becomes a crucial figure in this process, using her political connections and moral authority to rally systems to the Jedi cause. The Republic we swore to serve is dead, she declares before a secret gathering of senators in a hidden bunker on Alderaan. But its ideals can live on if we have the courage to fight for them. The Jedi represent our last hope for justice and freedom in a galaxy that grows darker by the day. Her words carry special weight because of her relationship with Anakin, which has become public knowledge since his rejection of Palpatine's offer. Rather than being seen as a violation of Jedi principles, their love has become a symbol of the Order's evolution, proof that the Jedi are not emotionless automatons, but feeling beings fighting for what they hold dear. Bail Organa of Alderaan provides ships and supplies, his planet becoming a rallying point for the Resistance. Alderaan has always stood for peace, he tells the assembled senators, but sometimes peace must be defended with strength. Mon Mothma of Chandrila coordinates intelligence networks, her diplomatic skills proving invaluable in maintaining the fragile coalition of worlds that have declared against the Empire. We must be more than just a rebellion, she argues. We must be the foundation of a better republic, one that learns from the mistakes of the past. The war spreads across the galaxy like wildfire, with each world becoming a potential battleground. On Ryloth, Jedi Master Imagundi, who survived Order 66 thanks to the loyalty of his clone troopers, leads Twi'lek resistance fighters against Imperial occupation forces. The rocky canyons and underground cities of the planet become strongholds for guerrilla warfare as Republic-era fighters engage Imperial Star Destroyers in the skies above. Cham Syndulla, leader of the Twi'lek resistance and father of future rebel pilot Hera Syndulla, coordinates ground operations with a skill that impresses even veteran Jedi commanders. The Jedi stood with us during the Clone Wars, he tells his fighters as they prepare for another raid on Imperial supply convoys. Now we stand with them. Freedom is not something that can be given or taken away. It must be fought for. Generation after generation, the battles on Ryloth are particularly brutal because of the planet's strategic importance. Its location on major hyperspace routes makes it a crucial link between the core worlds and the Outer Rim, while its mineral wealth provides resources that both sides desperately need. Imperial forces, led by the ambitious Grand Moff Tarkin, implement increasingly harsh measures to break the resistance. The Jedi sympathizers must be shown the cost of defying Imperial authority, Tarkin declares to his subordinates. Burn their villages, seize their crops, take hostages from among their families. They will learn that rebellion brings only suffering. But these tactics backfire, driving more Twi'leks into the arms of the Resistance and providing the Jedi with powerful propaganda tools. Holovids of Imperial atrocities spread across the HoloNet, showing the galaxy what Palpatine's New Order really means for non-human species and anyone who dares to oppose the Empire. On Naboo, Queen Jamilia faces an impossible choice as Imperial forces demand the right to establish a garrison on the peaceful world. The planet's traditional neutrality and its status as Palpatine's homeworld should have protected it from the war, but the Queen's friendship with Padme Amidala makes her loyalty suspect in Imperial eyes. Your Majesty, Captain Typho advises during an emergency session of the Royal Advisory Council. We cannot resist an Imperial occupation. Our security forces are designed to deal with raiders and pirates, not star destroyers. And yet we cannot simply surrender our sovereignty, the Queen replies, her painted face a mask of regal composure. Naboo has been free for over 800 years. I will not be the monarch who ends that legacy. The solution comes from an unexpected source. Boss Nass and the Gungan Grand Army emerge from the planet's oceans, their ancient warrior traditions making them natural allies for the resistance. Wesa no like da, Empire, the Gungan leader declares in his distinctive accent. They want to make everyone slaves, even da Naboo. But Weza fight for freedom before, and Weza fight again. The resulting alliance between Naboo humans and Gungans creates one of the war's most effective resistance movements. Imperial forces find themselves fighting an enemy that can disappear into the planet's swamps and underwater cities, emerging to strike at convoys and supply depots before vanishing again. But the war takes its toll on the Jedi Order itself. As months pass, the peaceful guardians of the galaxy find themselves becoming hardened military commanders. Their meditation chambers replaced by strategic planning rooms, their philosophical discussions giving way to tactical briefings. Master Windu, in particular, undergoes a dramatic transformation as he leads increasingly aggressive assaults on Imperial strongholds. His Varpad fighting style, which channels dark side energy and turns it against itself, becomes more pronounced as he faces the constant presence of the dark side in Imperial forces. We must be willing to do what our enemies will not, he tells his troops before a particularly dangerous mission to liberate a prison planet where captured Jedi are being held. They show no mercy to the innocent, so we can afford none to the guilty. The mission succeeds, but at a cost. Several Imperial officers are killed after surrendering, their deaths justified as attempting to escape. When questioned about it, Windu's response is cold and pragmatic. They were war criminals who would have been executed anyway. I simply saved the Republic the cost of a trial. This incident sparks a heated debate within the Jedi Council about the moral boundaries of their war. Young Jedi Knights who once meditated in the temple gardens now command star destroyers and plan assassination missions. Padawans, who should be learning about diplomacy and peaceful conflict resolution, instead master the use of military explosives and interrogation techniques. We're becoming everything we once stood against, Obi-Wan argues during one particularly tense council session. How long before we're indistinguishable from the Sith we're fighting? The Sith enslave and oppress. Mace replies coldly. We liberate and protect. The methods may be similar, but the intentions are completely different. The road to the dark side is paved with good intentions. Yoda observes sadly. Careful, we must be, that in destroying the Empire, destroy ourselves, we do not. But even as the Jedi struggle with these moral questions, the war continues to escalate. Palpatine, operating from a hidden fortress in the unknown regions, begins deploying increasingly exotic weapons and tactics. Sith cultists recruited from the galaxy's criminal underworld serve as assassins and saboteurs. Ancient dark side artifacts are recovered from forgotten tombs and used to corrupt entire star systems. Most disturbing of all are reports of new Force-sensitive agents serving the Empire. These Inquisitors are not true Sith but fallen Jedi and Force. Sensitive individuals trained in the dark side and equipped with specialized weapons designed to hunt their former colleagues. The first encounter with an Inquisitor takes place on Kashyyyk, where Commander Gree and Master Yoda are coordinating Wookiee resistance efforts. The figure appears without warning in the middle of a strategic planning session, a tall humanoid in black armor with a spinning double-bladed lightsaber that hums with malevolent energy. "Master Yoda," the Inquisitor says, his voice artificially modulated by his helmet's vocoder. The Emperor sends his regards. The battle that follows devastates the Wookiee command center. The Inquisitor's unorthodox weapon and aggressive fighting style catch the defenders off guard, his spinning blades creating a barrier of energy that's almost impossible to penetrate. Several Wookiee warriors fall to the crimson blades before Yoda can engage the dark side warrior directly. "Fallen to the dark side, you have," Yoda observes as their lightsabers clash in a shower of sparks. "But trained by Sith, you were not. Incomplete. Your knowledge, island. I know enough to kill an old fool." The Inquisitor snarls, pressing his attack with renewed fury. But Yoda's 900 years of experience in the Force prove decisive. Where the Inquisitor relies on brute force and intimidation, the ancient Jedi Master uses precision and timing. His small green blade finds gaps in the spinning defense, delivering strikes that gradually disable the Inquisitor's weapon and armor. "Pain and fear fuel your power, they do," Yoda says as he disarms his opponent. "But pain and fear, fleeting things they are. The light side, eternal at island." The defeated Inquisitor is captured rather than killed, becoming a valuable source of intelligence about Palpatine's operations in the unknown regions. Under questioning, he reveals the existence of multiple hidden Imperial facilities, including secret shipyards, where a new class of superweapon is under construction. The Emperor's grand design is almost complete, the prisoner admits after days of interrogation. Soon, he will have the power to destroy entire star systems with a single command. Your rebellion will be crushed, and the galaxy will kneel before the eternal empire. This intelligence leads to one of the war's most crucial operations, a desperate assault on the Maw installation, a secret Imperial research facility hidden in a cluster of black holes near Kessel. The mission is led by Anakin Skywalker, whose exceptional piloting skills make him one of the few beings capable of navigating the treacherous gravitational field surrounding the facility. The strike force consists of the Jedi Order's most experienced pilots and commanders, supported by elite clone units and volunteers from across the galaxy. As they emerge from hyperspace at the edge of the Maw cluster, they're confronted by a sight that defies comprehension. A massive space station, larger than any structure ever built, its surface bristling with weapons and construction equipment. "By the Force," breathes Aayla Secura from the cockpit of her modified Jedi starfighter. "What is that thing?" "That's what the Emperor has been building while we've been fighting his fleets," Anakin replies grimly. "It's not just a weapon. It's a statement. A way of telling the galaxy that resistance is futile. The Death Star, though still under construction, is already functional enough to defend itself. Massive turbolaser batteries open fire on the approaching fleet, their green beams powerful enough to destroy capital ships with single hits. TIE fighters pour out of the station's hangar bays like angry insects. Their pilots fanatically loyal to the Emperor, who has given them purpose and direction. All fighters, this is Skywalker, Anakin broadcast to his squadron. Remember, we're not here to destroy that thing. We just need to get close enough to plant the charges and get out. Stay tight, watch each other's backs, and may the Force be with us all. The space battle that follows is the largest of the war, with thousands of fighters engaged in desperate combat around the partially constructed Death Star. Republic-era Y-Wings and X-Wings clash with Imperial TIEs and prototype advanced fighters, their laser fire creating a deadly light show against the backdrop of the churning black holes. Anakin leads his strike team through the maze of construction scaffolding and partially completed sections, using his Force-enhanced reflexes to dodge debris and enemy fire. His target is the station's main reactor, a massive fusion furnace that powers the entire facility. If they can overload it, the resulting explosion should cripple the Death Star's construction for years. But as they penetrate deeper into the station, they encounter a familiar presence. In the central command chamber, surrounded by Imperial technicians and guarded by Inquisitors, stands Emperor Palpatine himself. His yellow eyes gleam with malevolent satisfaction as he watches the battle unfold on massive tactical displays. "Welcome, young Skywalker," he says without turning around. "I have been expecting you. Then you know why I'm here," Anakin replies, igniting his lightsaber as he steps into the chamber. "Indeed, you're here to try to stop me from bringing order to the galaxy. How noble, how futile." Palpatine finally turns, his hands crackling with Force lightning. "You could have ruled at my side, Anakin. Instead, you chose to throw your life away for the Jedi's outdated principles." The duel between master and former apprentice shakes the very foundations of the Death Star. Palpatine's dark side mastery clashes against Anakin's refined lightsaber skills and newfound emotional balance. Where the young Jedi once fought with passion and anger, he now channels the calmer emotions of love, hope, and determination. "You taught me something important," Anakin says as he deflects a barrage of Force lightning. "You showed me that power without purpose is meaningless. You have all the power in the galaxy, but you're still empty inside." "Spare me your philosophy," Palpatine snarls, unleashing a wave of dark side energy that cracks the chamber's transparent steel windows. "You know nothing of true power." But as their battle reaches its climax, the charges planted by Anakin's team begin to detonate throughout the station. The Death Star, its incomplete structure unable to withstand the cascading explosions, begins to tear itself apart under the enormous gravitational stresses of the Maw cluster. "Your empire dies with you," Anakin declares as he drives his lightsaber toward Palpatine's heart. But the Emperor has one final surprise. With a gesture, he activates a hidden hyperdrive system, attempting to escape into the unknown regions with the core sections of the Death Star. The massive structure begins to tear apart as parts of it jump to hyperspace while others remain trapped by the black hole's gravity. Anakin barely escapes in his starfighter, as the Death Star's destruction creates a gravitational shockwave that ripples through the Maw cluster. Behind him, the Emperor's fate remains unknown as parts of the station disappear into hyperspace while others are consumed by the hungry black holes. The destruction of the Death Star marks a turning point in the galactic civil war. With their ultimate weapon gone and their Emperor missing, Imperial forces begin to fragment and lose cohesion. System after system declares independence or throws in their lot with the Jedi-led Republic. But the victory comes at a tremendous cost. Thousands of Jedi Knights have died in the fighting, and those who survive carry the scars of war, both physical and spiritual. The order that emerges from the conflict is fundamentally different from the one that existed before the Clone Wars, shaped by necessity into something that would have been unrecognizable to the Jedi of the Old Republic. In the aftermath of the war, as the galaxy begins the long process of rebuilding, the surviving Jedi must grapple with what they've become. Obi-Wan observes to Yoda as they stand in the ruins of the original Jedi Temple on Coruscant. But at what cost? Half our order is dead, and the other half has blood on their hands. Yoda, now ancient and frail from his efforts during the war, nods slowly. Changed. We are. Changed. We had to be. The old ways brought this catastrophe they did. Adapt or die, the choice was. But have we adapted, or have we simply become something else entirely? Obi-Wan asks. The younglings who survived this war will never know the peace and contemplation that once defined our order. They've grown up with lightsabers in their hands and war in their hearts. Peace, a luxury it was, Yoda replies sadly. Earned it must be, not simply hoped for. Learn this lesson the galaxy has. But gentle again, we can become, when safe, the Galaxy Island. A new Jedi code begins to emerge from the ashes of the old, crafted through the painful lessons of war and betrayal. Emotion is not forbidden, but must be understood and channeled constructively. Attachment is not banned, but must be balanced with duty to the greater good. The Jedi Knights become not just guardians of peace, but active protectors of justice throughout the galaxy. The Force flows through all living things, reads the new code, carved into the walls of the rebuilt Jedi Temple. We are its servants, not its masters. We protect the innocent, defend the just, and stand against the darkness wherever it may rise. We are guardians of hope in a galaxy that has known too much despair. Anakin Skywalker, who might have become Darth Vader in another timeline, instead becomes a bridge between the old and new orders. His marriage to Padme is officially recognized by the reformed Jedi Council, setting a precedent for future relationships within the Order. Their children, Luke and Leia, grow up in a galaxy where the Jedi are honored but changed, shaped by war but not consumed by it. The old order failed because it became rigid and detached. Anakin explains to a gathering of young Jedi, "We forgot that we're supposed to serve the people of the galaxy, not stand apart from them. Our strength comes not from isolation, but from our connections to those we protect." The Clone Wars end not with the Republic's transformation into an empire, but with its renewal as a true democratic federation. The clone troopers who remained loyal to the Jedi are honored as heroes. Their artificial origin no longer a mark of shame, but a symbol of their choice to fight for freedom despite their programming. Captain Rex becomes the first clone to serve as a senator, representing the rights of artificial beings across the galaxy in the reformed Senate. Commander Cody leads a new peacekeeping force that combines clone troopers and volunteers from across the galaxy. Their mission to prevent the kind of corruption that allowed Palpatine to rise to power. We are all born into circumstances beyond our control. Rex says in his inaugural address to the Senate. What matters is not how we begin, but how we choose to live and what we choose to fight for. My brothers and I chose freedom, not just for ourselves, but for all beings who dream of a better galaxy. The relationship between clones and their Jedi generals, tested by betrayal and war, emerges stronger than ever. The artificial divide created by the inhibitor chips is replaced by bonds forged in the crucible of combat and mutual respect. Clone commanders work alongside Jedi Masters to develop new training programs that emphasize critical thinking and moral reasoning alongside tactical skills. But perhaps the most significant change is in how the galaxy views conflict itself. The Jedi's willingness to wage war when faced with true evil proves that sometimes peace must be fought for, not simply hoped for. The Order maintains military branches alongside its traditional temple guards, ready to respond to threats with appropriate force, while never losing sight of their ultimate goal, a galaxy where such force is no longer necessary. New Jedi temples rise on worlds across the galaxy, but they're different from the old ones. They include training grounds and strategic planning centers alongside meditation chambers and archives. Young Jedi learn not just about the Force and lightsaber combat, but about military tactics, diplomacy, and the hard choices that leaders must sometimes make. A Jedi must be prepared for anything. Master Windu teaches a class of young knights in the arts of war. We are not soldiers, but sometimes we must fight like soldiers. We are not politicians, but sometimes we must negotiate like politicians. Above all, we must never forget that every choice we make affects millions of lives. The curriculum includes lessons learned from the Clone Wars and the fight against the Empire. Students study the tactics of famous battles, analyze the political maneuvering that allowed Palpatine to rise to power, and practice the kind of moral reasoning that helps them navigate complex ethical situations. The Sith, with Palpatine's presumed death in the destruction of the Death Star, seem to be truly extinct this time. Without the rule of two to perpetuate their order, and with the Jedi actively hunting down dark side cults and artifacts, the galaxy enters an era of unprecedented peace. But it's a peace maintained by strength and vigilance, not passive hope. The dark side is like a cancer, explains Master Luminara Unduli to her students. If you ignore it, it spreads. If you try to negotiate with it, it manipulates you. The only way to deal with it is to cut it out completely, no matter how painful the surgery might be. Jedi archaeological teams work tirelessly to locate and secure Sith artifacts, ancient weapons, and dark side nexuses. These items are either destroyed or secured in special vaults where their influence can be contained and studied. The goal is not just to prevent another Sith uprising, but to understand the dark side well enough to recognize its influence before it can corrupt the innocent. As the years pass, historians and philosophers debate whether the Jedi's transformation was necessary evolution or a tragic fall from grace. Some argue that the Order's abandonment of its pacifist principles represented a corruption of its core values. Others contend that the Jedi's willingness to fight proved their commitment to protecting the innocent, even at the cost of their own spiritual purity. We are not the same Jedi who failed to prevent the Clone Wars, acknowledges Master Yoda in what many consider his final teaching. Harder we have become, perhaps less pure, but alive we are, and protecting others we continue to do. Perfect we were not before, perfect we are not now, but learning we are, always learning. For those who lived through the war, the answer is clear. Sometimes, to preserve what is good and innocent in the galaxy, one must be willing to fight for it. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance, and the Jedi have finally learned to pay that price without losing their souls in the process. The reformed Jedi Order works closely with the New Republic government, but maintains its independence and moral authority. Jedi serve as advisors, mediators, and peacekeepers, but they are no longer bound by political considerations or Senate oversight. They answer to the Force and to their own conscience, as it should be. We serve the Republic because its ideals align with our own, explains the new Jedi High Council. But if it ever becomes corrupt again, if it ever forgets its duty to protect the innocent and preserve freedom, we will stand against it, just as we stood against the Empire. Luke and Leia Skywalker grow up in this new order, their training shaped by the lessons their father learned during the war. They understand that the Force is not just about personal power or mystical enlightenment, but about service to others and the willingness to make difficult choices for the greater good. The Force gave us these abilities for a reason. Luke learns during his early training, not to set us apart from others, but to help us serve them better. Every power we develop, every skill we master, is meaningful only if we use it to make the galaxy a better place. Their education includes not just traditional Jedi teachings, but lessons in history, politics, military strategy, and ethics. They study the fall of the Old Republic, the rise and defeat of the Empire, and the delicate balance required to maintain freedom in a galaxy where power can corrupt even the most well-intentioned beings. Master Yoda, in his final years, watches these new generations of Jedi with satisfaction and hope. They are not the contemplative mystics of the Old Republic, but they are something perhaps more valuable, warriors for justice, who understand the cost of their choices and the responsibility that comes with their power. Strong in the Force, these younglings are, he observes to Obi-Wan as they watch Luke and Leia training with their lightsabers, but stronger still in their hearts. Learn from our mistakes. They will. Better than us, they will be. The galaxy that emerges from this long conflict is one where democracy is protected by those who understand both the value of peace and the necessity of war. But the transition from war to peace proves more challenging than anyone anticipated. The rebuilt Republic faces numerous crises as former imperial territories struggle with the aftermath of authoritarian rule. On Coruscant, the new Senate convenes in emergency session to address reports of warlords and criminal syndicates filling the power vacuum left by collapsed imperial governorships. Senator Mon Mothma, now serving as interim chancellor, addresses the assembly with grave concern. The Empire's fall has created chaos across the Outer Rim. She reports to the gathered representatives. Without imperial oversight, local systems are reverting to feudalism or falling under the control of criminal organizations. We have reports of entire sectors being controlled by former imperial officers who have declared themselves independent warlords. The Jedi Council meets simultaneously in their rebuilt chambers, deliberating their role in this new crisis. Master Windu, his experiences during the war having hardened him considerably, argues for immediate military intervention. We cannot allow these petty tyrants to terrorize innocent civilians, he declares, his purple lightsaber lying on the council table before him. The Republic's military is still rebuilding. We have the power and the responsibility to act. But Master Yoda raises concerns about this approach. Dangerous, this path island. From peacekeepers to warriors we became. From warriors to rulers should we now become. Repeat the mistakes of the old Republic. We must not. Obi-Wan supports Yoda's caution. If we become the Republic's enforcers, how long before we become its controllers? The Jedi's strength has always come from our moral authority, not our political power. Anakin, now a master on the Council, offers a different perspective. We don't need to rule, but we can't stand by while people suffer. What if we create joint task forces? Jedi working alongside Republic commanders, but not replacing them. The debate continues for hours, reflecting the fundamental questions facing the post-war galaxy. How much power should the Jedi wield? What is their responsibility to intervene in conflicts that don't directly threaten galactic peace? How can they prevent another Palpatine from rising while still maintaining their role as guardians? These philosophical discussions are interrupted by urgent reports from the Outer Rim. On Tatooine, a former Imperial admiral named Osiris Glee has established himself as a planetary dictator, using captured Imperial equipment to terrorize the local population. His forces have enslaved thousands of beings, forcing them to work in expanded spice mines while living in conditions worse than anything seen during the Clone Wars. The situation is deteriorating rapidly. Reports Commander Rex during a briefing to the combined Senate and Jedi leadership. Glee has captured several refugee transports and is using the passengers as leverage against any rescue attempts. Intelligence suggests he's planning to expand his operation to neighboring systems. Padme Amidala, now serving as the Republic's Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, presents disturbing footage from Tatooine. The holo recordings show emaciated beings working in underground mines, children separated from their parents, and public executions of anyone who dares to resist Glee's authority. This is exactly what we fought to prevent, she says, her voice tight with controlled anger. If we allow this to continue, we're telling every would-be dictator in the galaxy that the Republic and the Jedi will do nothing to stop them. The response comes in the form of Operation Liberation Dawn, a joint Republic Jedi task force led by Anakin Skywalker and supported by specialized clone units. The mission represents a new model of cooperation between military and Force-sensitive personnel, designed to avoid the mistakes of the Clone Wars while still providing effective intervention capability. The assault on Tatooine begins with a carefully coordinated strike on Glee's orbital platforms. Jedi starfighters, piloted by knights who have trained extensively in space combat, engage the Admiral's modified TIE fighters above the desert world. The battle is swift and decisive, with Force-enhanced reflexes giving the Jedi pilots a significant advantage over their Imperial-trained opponents. On the surface, Anakin leads a combined force of Jedi Knights and clone troopers in a precision assault on Glee's fortress compound. The young man who once called Tatooine home moves through the familiar desert terrain with deadly efficiency, his lightsaber cutting through automated defenses and enemy soldiers with equal ease. "This is for everyone who ever suffered under a master's whip," he declares as he confronts Admiral Glee in the fortress's command center. The former Imperial officer, a tall human with cybernetic implants replacing parts of his face damaged during the war, sneers at the approaching Jedi. "You think you can stop what's coming, Skywalker?" Glee taunts, his hand moving toward a detonator connected to explosives throughout the slave quarters. "The Empire may be gone, But there are dozens of us out here. Hundreds. Every Imperial officer who survived your little rebellion is building their own kingdom. You can't be everywhere at once. Maybe not, Anakin replies, deflecting a blaster bolt back at one of Glee's bodyguards. But we can be here right now, and that's enough. The rescue of Tatooine becomes a template for similar operations across the galaxy. Joint Republic Jedi task forces strike at warlord strongholds, criminal syndicates, and slave trading operations with surgical precision. Each victory is followed by extensive humanitarian aid and the establishment of democratic governance structures, ensuring that liberated worlds don't simply fall under new forms of oppression. But these operations also reveal the depth of the challenges facing the New Republic. On Kessel, Jedi investigators discover that the infamous spice mines have been expanded using slave labor from dozens of worlds. The underground tunnels stretch for thousands of kilometers, creating a subterranean city where beings live and die without ever seeing sunlight. Master Luminara Unduli leads the investigation, her calm demeanor masking the horror she feels as she explores the deepest levels of the mines. This isn't just exploitation, she reports to the Council via encrypted communication. This is systematic genocide. They're working different species to death based on their biological resistance to spice exposure. The liberation of Kessel requires months of careful planning and execution. The mines are too extensive to assault directly, and any frontal attack would likely result in the deaths of thousands of prisoners. Instead, the Jedi implement a strategy of gradual infiltration, using the Force to locate and free small groups of slaves while gathering intelligence on the overall operation. Quinlan Vos, his unique psychometric abilities proving invaluable in tracking the criminal network's leadership, discovers connections that reach into the highest levels of surviving Imperial hierarchy. This isn't random opportunism, he explains during a strategy session. Someone is coordinating these operations, providing equipment and personnel. We're looking at a shadow network that survived the Empire's fall. The revelation leads to an even more disturbing discovery. In the unknown regions, beyond the reach of Republic forces, remnants of the Imperial fleet are regrouping under the leadership of surviving Moffs and admirals. Intelligence reports suggest they're building new shipyards and recruiting from the galaxy's disaffected populations, promising order and stability to those tired of post-war chaos. They're calling themselves the First Order. Admiral Akbar reports during a joint military briefing. Our scouts have identified at least 3 major fleet concentrations, each centered around a modified Star Destroyer, serving as a mobile command base. They're staying out of Republic space for now, but they're clearly preparing for something. This threat forces the Republic to confront an uncomfortable truth. The war against the Empire may be over, but the ideological conflict between freedom and authoritarianism continues. The First Order represents not just military opposition, but a competing vision of galactic governance that appeals to those who prefer security over liberty. The Jedi Order responds by establishing new training facilities specifically focused on counterintelligence and deep space reconnaissance. Young Jedi are taught not just lightsaber combat and Force techniques, but also the skills needed to operate behind enemy lines for extended periods. Luke Skywalker, now approaching his teenage years, shows exceptional promise in these advanced programs. His natural connection to the Force, enhanced by the unique circumstances of his birth during the Galactic Civil War, allows him to sense threats and opportunities that even experienced Jedi Masters sometimes miss. Your son has a gift that goes beyond normal Force sensitivity, Yoda observes to Anakin during one of Luke's training evaluations. Sense the future, he can, but more than that. Understand the connections between events, the patterns that shape destiny itself. Leia displays equally impressive abilities, but her talents lean toward diplomacy and strategic thinking. At barely 12 years old, she successfully mediates a trade dispute between two outer rim systems that had been threatening to escalate into armed conflict. Her ability to sense the emotional undercurrents in negotiations proves as valuable as any lightsaber skill. The Force works through her differently than through Luke. Padmé observes to her husband as they watch their daughter address a gathering of system representatives. She doesn't just sense what people are feeling. She understands what they need to hear, what will bring them together instead of driving them apart. These natural abilities, combined with the advanced training methods developed by the reformed Jedi Order, create a new generation of Force users, unlike any seen before. They are equally comfortable in meditation chambers and military briefing rooms, capable of channeling the light side of the Force while understanding the darker realities of galactic politics. Their skills are tested when the First Order finally emerges from the unknown regions, with a surprise attack on several Outer Rim worlds. The assault is carefully planned and brutally executed, with First Order forces capturing key hyperspace routes and establishing fortified positions before Republic forces can respond. They're not trying to conquer territory, analyzes General Rex during an emergency strategy session. They're demonstrating power, showing the galaxy that they're a force to be reckoned with, and that the Republic can't protect everyone. The First Order's tactics are designed to exploit the Republic's greatest weakness, its commitment to democratic decision-making. While Senate committees debate the appropriate response to each attack, First Order forces strike and withdraw before any organized resistance can be mounted. Democracy is slow, admits Chancellor Mon Mothma during a heated Senate session, but it's also resilient. The First Order may win quick victories, but they can't build lasting institutions based on fear and oppression. The Jedi response is more immediate and decisive. Strike teams, led by experienced masters, begin hunting First Order commanders and disrupting their supply lines. These operations, conducted with minimal Senate oversight, represent a new level of Jedi independence from political control. Master Windu leads one of the most successful of these operations, tracking a First Order fleet to a hidden base in an asteroid field near the galaxy's edge. The resulting battle demonstrates how much the Jedi have evolved since the Clone Wars, with lightsaber-wielding knights coordinating seamlessly with starfighter squadrons and capital ship crews. This is what we should have been during the Clone Wars, Windu reflects as his team secures the asteroid base. Not generals commanding armies, but specialists doing what only we can do. The asteroid base yields crucial intelligence about First Order capabilities and intentions. Hidden in the facility's data cores are plans for new weapons systems, recruitment strategies, and political infiltration operations designed to destabilize Republic worlds from within. Most disturbing are records indicating that the First Order has been experimenting with artificial Force sensitivity, attempting to create their own equivalent of Jedi Knights through cybernetic implants and chemical enhancement. The test subjects, volunteers from the First Order's most fanatical supporters, display limited Force abilities, but also severe psychological instability. They're trying to mass-produce Force users. Obi-Wan observes with disgust as he reviews the experimental data. Without understanding that the Force isn't just about power, it's about connection, about empathy and wisdom gained through years of training and meditation. The artificial Force users, dubbed Shadow Troopers by First Order propaganda, proved to be dangerous but ultimately flawed opponents. Their artificially enhanced abilities make them formidable in single combat, but their lack of true understanding makes them vulnerable to the subtle techniques employed by trained Jedi. Luke Skywalker encounters his first Shadow Trooper during a reconnaissance mission to a First Order recruitment center on Corellia. The artificial Force user attacks with impressive speed and strength. His lightsaber technique crude but effective. But Luke's deeper connection to the Force allows him to predict his opponent's moves and exploit the emotional instability that comes with artificial enhancement. "You're strong," Luke observes as he disarms his opponent, "but you're fighting the Force instead of working with it. That's why you'll never win." The Shadow Trooper's response is a wordless scream of rage as his cybernetic implants overload, the artificial Force connection burning out his nervous system. It's a sobering reminder that the dark side's promise of quick power always comes with a terrible price. Luke staggers backward, shaken by what he has witnessed. The dying Shadow Trooper's final moments echo through the Force like a distress signal, carrying with it the pain and confusion of a mind torn apart by artificial enhancement. Master Yoda was right, he whispers to himself. The Force cannot be shortcuts or replicated. This encounter becomes a defining moment for the young Jedi, shaping his understanding of the delicate balance required to wield the Force responsibly. When he returns to the Jedi Temple, Luke spends hours in meditation, processing the complex emotions stirred up by his first direct confrontation with the dark side's corruption. "Disturbed you are," observes Master Yoda during one of their private training sessions. "Natural, this island. See the cost of the dark side's promises you have. Learn from this, you must, but consumed by it, you cannot be." The old master guides Luke through advanced meditation techniques, teaching him to process traumatic experiences without becoming hardened or cynical. Compassion for the fallen. Maintain you must. Pity them. We should. These Shadow Troopers chose their fate freely. They did not. Victims of manipulation, they are. These encounters with artificial Force users lead the Jedi to develop comprehensive new defensive techniques and training methods. Master Windu establishes a specialized training facility on Dantooine, where students learn to recognize the distinctive signature of artificial enhancement and practice countering the unique fighting styles employed by Shadow Troopers. The facility becomes a proving ground for the most promising young Jedi, including several of Luke's closest friends and training partners. Among them is Jaina Solo, daughter of a famous smuggler who joined the Republic cause during the Civil War, whose natural piloting abilities rival even Anakin's legendary skills. The artificial Force users fight like machines, Jaina observes during a training simulation. Their movements are too precise, too calculated. They don't flow with the Force, they try to control it. Her observation leads to the development of new combat forms specifically designed to exploit the rigidity of artificial enhancement. These techniques emphasize unpredictability and emotional authenticity, qualities that Shadow Troopers struggle to counter due to their artificial nature. Master Luminara Unduli, now serving as the head of Jedi combat instruction, incorporates these lessons into the broader curriculum. The Force is alive, she teaches her students. It flows through all living things, connecting them in an endless web of energy and consciousness. Artificial enhancement can mimic some aspects of Force sensitivity, but it cannot replicate the deep spiritual connection that gives true Jedi their strength. The training program expands to include psychological preparation for encounters with corrupted Force users. Students learn meditation techniques for maintaining mental clarity in the presence of dark side energy, as well as methods for resisting the fear and anger that shadow troopers are designed to provoke. During one particularly intensive training session, Luke faces off against a holographic simulation of multiple shadow troopers in close combat. The artificial opponents are programmed with data gathered from real encounters, making them devastatingly realistic in their tactics and capabilities. Remember, instructs Master Secura from the observation deck. They will try to make you angry, try to provoke you into fighting with passion instead of precision. The moment you let emotion drive your actions, you become vulnerable to their tactics. Luke moves through the simulation with fluid grace, his lightsaber deflecting holographic attacks while he maintains perfect mental equilibrium. But the test becomes more challenging as the simulation introduces civilians into the combat zone, forcing him to protect innocents while engaging multiple opponents. One of the holographic shadow troopers grabs a simulated child, holding the projection as a human shield. While advancing on Luke's position, the young Jedi feels a surge of protective anger, exactly the emotion the simulation is designed to provoke. But instead of giving in to it, he channels that energy into focused determination. Using a technique learned from his father, Luke extends his consciousness through the Force, sensing the exact position of every element in the simulation. With surgical precision, he throws his lightsaber in an arc that disarms the shadow trooper without harming the holographic child, while simultaneously using the Force to pull both the projection and himself to safety. Excellent control, Master Secura comments as the simulation ends. You've learned to use emotion as information, rather than letting it control your actions. That distinction may save your life in real combat. The training program produces a generation of Jedi uniquely prepared to face the challenges of the post-Imperial galaxy. These new knights combine traditional Force training with advanced tactical knowledge, psychological resilience, and a deep understanding of the various forms that evil can take. Their skills are tested repeatedly as the First Order launches increasingly sophisticated attacks on Republic worlds. Unlike the Empire's reliance on brute force and intimidation, the First Order employs subtle infiltration tactics designed to turn populations against their own governments. On Chandrila, First Order agents, posing as legitimate political activists, begin spreading propaganda about Jedi mind control and Republic corruption. The campaign is carefully crafted to exploit existing tensions between human and non-human populations, gradually building support for independence from the central government. Leia Skywalker, now serving as a diplomatic liaison between the Jedi Order and Republic intelligence services, is assigned to investigate the situation. Her unique combination of Force sensitivity and political training makes her ideally suited for this type of complex operation. The infiltration is more sophisticated than anything we've seen before, she reports to the Joint Jedi-Republic Intelligence Committee. They're not just spreading lies, they're exploiting real grievances and legitimate concerns. Some of their criticisms of Republic policies are actually valid. This discovery forces both the Jedi and Republic leadership to confront uncomfortable truths about their own shortcomings. The post-war reconstruction has not been entirely successful, and some worlds feel neglected or misunderstood by the central government on Coruscant. We cannot defeat the First Order simply by opposing them, Chancellor Mon Mothma acknowledges during a closed-door strategy session. We must also address the underlying issues that make their propaganda effective. If people feel abandoned by the Republic, they will naturally turn to anyone who promises to listen to their concerns. The response involves a comprehensive reform of Republic governance, with increased autonomy for individual worlds and better representation for non-human species in the Senate. The Jedi Order also expands its outreach programs, establishing permanent diplomatic missions on worlds that feel disconnected from the galactic community. These reforms help to undermine First Order recruitment efforts, but they also reveal the extent of the challenge facing the new galactic order. Building a truly representative democracy across thousands of worlds with vastly different cultures, economies, and political traditions proves more difficult than anyone anticipated. The complexity of the situation becomes apparent during a crisis on Malastare, where economic disputes between human colonists and native Dug populations threaten to escalate into ethnic violence. The tension has been brewing for years, but First Order agents have recently begun supplying weapons to extremist groups on both sides. Master Windu leads a joint peacekeeping force to the planet, but the situation proves more challenging than a simple military intervention. The underlying conflict involves complex issues of land rights, resource allocation, and cultural preservation that cannot be resolved through force powers alone. This is why the old Jedi Order failed. Windu reflects during a strategy meeting with local leaders. We thought we could maintain peace through power alone, without addressing the root causes of conflict. We cannot make that mistake again. The resolution involves months of careful negotiation, with Jedi mediators working alongside Republic diplomats and local community leaders to develop a comprehensive agreement that addresses the concerns of all parties. The process is slow and sometimes frustrating, but it ultimately proves more effective than any military action could have been. True peace is not the absence of conflict, explains Master Kenobi to a gathering of young Jedi studying the Malastare crisis. It is the presence of justice. When people feel heard and respected, when they have legitimate channels for addressing their grievances, conflict becomes much less likely. These lessons in complex peacekeeping become central to the reformed Jedi curriculum. Students learn not just combat techniques and force powers, but also negotiation skills, cultural sensitivity, and economic analysis. The goal is to create Jedi who can address problems before they escalate into violence. The approach proves its worth when a similar crisis emerges on Botha-Wi, where corporate exploitation of natural resources has created environmental damage that threatens traditional Bothan communities. Instead of waiting for the situation to explode into violence, a team of Jedi negotiators arrives early and begins working with all stakeholders to develop sustainable solutions. Prevention is always preferable to cure, observes Leia as she helps coordinate the Botha-Wi intervention. By addressing problems early, we can avoid the kind of tragic conflicts that characterized the Clone Wars. The success of these preventive interventions helps to establish the reformed Jedi Order's reputation as mediators and problem solvers rather than simply warriors. This reputation proves invaluable in countering First Order propaganda, which often portrays the Jedi as militaristic enforcers of Republic authority. But the First Order adapts to these successes by changing its own tactics. Instead of trying to provoke open conflicts, they begin focusing on economic warfare and technological sabotage designed to undermine confidence in Republic institutions without providing clear targets for Jedi intervention. The new strategy becomes apparent when a series of industrial accidents across the Mid-Rim results in significant economic disruption and loss of life. Initially, the incidents appear to be unrelated equipment failures, but careful investigation reveals subtle signs of sabotage designed to look like negligence or incompetence. They're trying to make the Republic look ineffective, analyzes Commander Rex during a briefing to senior Jedi and Republic officials. Each incident by itself seems like bad luck or poor management, but together they create a pattern of systematic failure that undermines public confidence in democratic institutions. The investigation leads to the discovery of a sophisticated First Order network operating throughout Republic space. Using advanced slicing techniques and insider knowledge of Republic systems, they have been infiltrating government agencies, private corporations, and even some Jedi facilities. This is not random terrorism, warns Quinlan Voss, whose psychometric abilities have helped uncover key evidence of the conspiracy. This is a systematic attempt to weaken the Republic from within, to make people nostalgic for the stability of Imperial rule. The discovery forces a major reassessment of Republic security procedures and intelligence operations. New counterintelligence protocols are developed, with Jedi investigators working alongside traditional security services to identify and neutralize infiltration attempts. The expanded security measures prove effective at stopping specific attacks, but they also raise concerns about the balance between safety and freedom in the post-Imperial galaxy. Some critics argue that the Republic is becoming too much like the Empire it replaced, sacrificing civil liberties in the name of security. We must be careful not to become what we fought against, warned Senator Padme Amidala during a heated debate in the Senate. The moment we start treating our own citizens as potential enemies, we have already lost the moral authority that justifies our existence. The debate reflects a fundamental tension in post-war society: how to maintain security against sophisticated threats without abandoning the democratic values that make freedom worth defending. The Jedi Order finds itself at the center of this debate, as their unique abilities make them both invaluable security assets and potential threats to civil liberties. Power corrupts, acknowledges Master Kenobi during a council session devoted to discussing the Order's role in Republic security operations. Even when it is used with the best of intentions, we must constantly examine our own actions to ensure that we are serving the people, not controlling them. The discussion leads to the establishment of new oversight mechanisms designed to ensure that Jedi operations remain accountable to democratic institutions. Regular reviews of Jedi activities by civilian authorities, transparent reporting of major operations, and strict limits on surveillance capabilities all become part of the new protocol. These safeguards help to maintain public trust in both the Jedi Order and Republic institutions, but they also make it more difficult to respond quickly to emerging threats. The balance between transparency and operational security becomes a constant challenge for Jedi leaders. The tension comes to a head during a crisis on Corellia, where First Order agents have infiltrated the planetary government and are planning to withdraw the system from the Republic. Intelligence indicates that the plan includes assassinating pro-Republic leaders and blaming the deaths on Jedi mind control experiments. The situation requires immediate action to prevent bloodshed, But the new oversight protocols would normally require extensive consultation and approval processes that could take days or weeks. Master Windu argues for immediate intervention, while other council members worry about the precedent such action would set. If we act without authorization, we validate every criticism of Jedi independence, argues Master Undulai. But if we delay, innocent people will die, and Corellia may be lost to the First Order. The debate is resolved when Leia Skywalker proposes a compromise. A small team of Jedi will enter Corellia undercover to gather evidence and protect potential targets, while diplomatic channels work to expose the First Order plot through legitimate means. We can serve as a shield without becoming a sword, she suggests. Protect the innocent. Gather the proof we need, but let the political process handle the resolution. The operation becomes a model for future Jedi interventions in complex political situations. Working carefully within legal and ethical boundaries, the Jedi team manages to prevent the assassinations while gathering evidence that exposes the First Order conspiracy to Corellian authorities. The success helps to demonstrate that the reformed Jedi Order can be both effective and accountable, serving the cause of justice without undermining democratic institutions. It also provides valuable experience for a new generation of Jedi who must navigate the complex political realities of the post-Imperial galaxy. The Force cannot be replicated or mass-produced, teaches Master Yoda to a class of young Padawans. Shortcut to power, the dark side promises, but fleeting these gains are. True strength comes from understanding, from harmony with the living Force. The conflict with the First Order escalates over several years, but gradually, the Republic's advantages in resources and popular support begin to tell. First Order recruitment drops as their artificial Force users prove increasingly unstable, while their leadership fractures under the pressure of constant Jedi raids and Republic military operations. The final confrontation comes when Republic intelligence locates the First Order's primary shipyard complex, hidden in a nebula near the galactic rim. The facility is defended by the remnants of the Imperial fleet and thousands of fanatically loyal troops, making a direct assault extremely costly. Instead, Anakin proposes a more elegant solution. A small team of Jedi will infiltrate the facility and sabotage its primary reactor, while Republic forces create a diversion elsewhere in the system. The plan is risky, requiring the infiltration team to penetrate multiple layers of security without triggering alarms that would doom them and their mission. The team consists of Anakin, Luke, Leia, and Ahsoka Tano, representing 3 generations of Jedi trained in different eras and traditions. Their diverse skills and perspectives prove crucial as they navigate the massive facility's defenses. Remember, Anakin instructs his children as they prepare for the mission. We're not here to fight a war. We're here to end one. Every life we can save on both sides is worth the extra risk. The infiltration goes smoothly until they reach the reactor chamber, where they encounter the First Order's ultimate weapon, a massive artificial Force user created by combining cybernetic enhancement with Sith alchemy recovered from ancient ruins. The creature stands nearly 3 meters tall. Its body, a horrifying fusion of organic tissue and mechanical components. Its artificial consciousness driven by pure malevolence. Behold, the future of the Force, announces the First Order's Supreme Commander, a former Imperial Moff named Valorum, whose obsession with power has driven him to grotesque extremes. No more mystical philosophy or ancient traditions, just pure, controllable power. The battle that follows tests every skill the Skywalker family has learned. The artificial creature's strength and speed are beyond anything they've encountered, while its lack of normal pain response makes conventional lightsaber techniques ineffective. But working together, combining their different approaches to the Force, they gradually wear down their opponent. Luke uses his gift for sensing patterns to predict the creature's attacks, while Leia's diplomatic skills prove unexpectedly useful in confusing its artificial intelligence with contradictory commands. Anakin and Ahsoka provide direct combat support, their years of experience allowing them to exploit the brief openings created by their younger teammates. "This is what real strength looks like," Anakin declares as he delivers the killing blow to the artificial creature. Not power taken by force, but trust given freely. Not domination, but cooperation. The destruction of the First Order's primary facility marks the end of organized Imperial resistance, but it also highlights the ongoing challenges facing the galaxy. Without a clear external threat to unite against, various Republic worlds begin pursuing their own agendas, leading to new conflicts and tensions. The Jedi Order adapts by decentralizing its operations, establishing regional councils that can respond quickly to local crises without waiting for approval from Coruscant. This new structure reflects the lessons learned from the Clone Wars, when centralized command made the Order vulnerable to a single point of failure. "We cannot allow ourselves to become too comfortable," warns Master Yoda during his final address to the reformed Jedi Council. Peace, not a destination it is, but a journey. Constant vigilance, eternal effort. These, the price of freedom, are. Yoda's death, peaceful and surrounded by students and colleagues, marks the end of an era and the beginning of another. His funeral becomes a galaxy-wide celebration of not just his life, but the ideals he represented and the order he helped transform. The new Jedi leadership, headed by Obi-Wan Kenobi as Grand Master, and including Anakin, Mace Windu, and other veterans of the Galactic Civil War, faces the challenge of maintaining the Order's relevance in a galaxy that no longer faces existential threats. Their solution is to expand the Jedi's role beyond traditional peacekeeping to include education, scientific research, and cultural preservation. Jedi archaeologists work to recover and protect ancient knowledge, while Jedi scientists contribute to medical research and technological development. "The Force flows through all aspects of life," explains Master Kenobi to a gathering of potential recruits. "Our duty is not just to fight evil when it appears, but to nurture good wherever we find it." This expansion of the Jedi mission attracts a new kind of recruit. Beings motivated not by the desire for adventure or power, but by genuine commitment to service and learning. The Order grows steadily, but its growth is carefully managed to maintain quality and prevent the kind of institutional arrogance that contributed to the original Order's downfall. Luke and Leia Skywalker come to represent this new generation of Jedi. Their training encompassing not just traditional Force techniques, but also advanced studies in history, psychology, and interspecies relations. When they reach adulthood, they choose different paths that reflect their individual strengths and interests. Luke becomes a wandering teacher, traveling throughout the galaxy to establish new training centers and help Force-sensitive beings understand their abilities. His approach emphasizes personal growth and spiritual development, drawing on both Jedi traditions and insights gained from studying other Force-using cultures. Leia chooses to focus on the political dimension of the Jedi mission, working within the Republic government to prevent the kind of institutional corruption that allowed Palpatine to rise to power. Her unique combination of force sensitivity and political acumen makes her an invaluable bridge between the Jedi Order and galactic democracy. "My children represent the future of the Order," Anakin observes during a rare family gathering on Naboo. They understand that the Force is not about personal power or setting yourself apart from others. It's about connection, about making the galaxy a better place for everyone. Padme, now in her 50s, but still actively involved in Republic politics, agrees wholeheartedly. The Jedi's greatest strength has always been their ability to inspire others to be better than they thought they could be. Luke and Leia do that naturally, without even trying. As the years pass, the galaxy settles into a new equilibrium. The Republic becomes stronger and more resilient, with built-in safeguards against the kind of constitutional manipulation that enabled Palpatine's rise. The Jedi Order maintains its independence while working closely with democratic institutions, serving as both protector and conscience for galactic civilization. New challenges arise periodically. Exploration of unknown regions reveals hostile alien species. Criminal syndicates develop increasingly sophisticated operations, and internal conflicts between Republic members sometimes threaten to escalate into civil war. But each crisis is met with a response that reflects the lessons learned from the Clone Wars and the fight against the Empire. "We have created something new," reflects Master Kenobi during a ceremony marking the 50th anniversary of the Galactic Civil War's end. Not the old Republic with its weaknesses and blind spots, and not the Empire with its tyranny and oppression. Something that takes the best of both while avoiding their mistakes. The ceremony takes place in the Great Hall of the rebuilt Jedi Temple, attended by representatives from across the galaxy. Former clone troopers, now elderly but still proud of their service, stand alongside young Jedi Knights who have known only peace and freedom. Senators and planetary leaders share space with farmers and factory workers, all united by their commitment to the ideals that the Jedi have fought to preserve. In his speech, Kenobi emphasizes the ongoing nature of the struggle for freedom and justice. Victory is not a destination but a commitment. Each generation must choose anew whether to preserve what their ancestors built or to let it decay through neglect and complacency. The speech is broadcast across the galaxy, reaching billions of beings on thousands of worlds. On Tatooine, freed slaves gather in the rebuilt city of Mos Eisley to watch the ceremony. On Kashyyyk, Wookiee families share the moment with human settlers in a gesture of interspecies cooperation that would have been impossible under Imperial rule. As the ceremony concludes and the assembled crowd disperses, the Skywalker family remains in the temple's meditation garden, reflecting on the journey that brought them to this moment. Anakin, now a senior master with gray threading through his hair, watches his grandchildren play among the fountain sculptures. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if things had gone differently?" Padme asks, her hand finding his after all these years of marriage. "If Order 66 had succeeded, if Palpatine had won, sometimes," Anakin admits, "but I try not to dwell on it. We made our choices, and we live with the consequences. The galaxy we have now isn't perfect, but it's ours. We built it together, and our children will continue building it long after we're gone." Luke approaches, now a distinguished master in his own right, his own students following respectfully behind. "The younglings want to know if you'll tell them about the old days," he says with a smile. "About the Clone Wars and the fight against the Empire. Again? Anakin laughs. Don't they get tired of hearing those stories? Never, Luke replies. They need to understand where we came from to appreciate where we're going. And besides, you tell them better than the history books do. As the sun sets over Coruscant, casting long shadows through the temple's ancient spires, Anakin gathers the young students around him and begins once again the story of how the Jedi learned to fight for peace, how they discovered that sometimes the greatest act of love is to stand against evil, and how they transformed themselves from passive guardians into active protectors of freedom and justice. The story continues, as it always will, with each new generation of Jedi carrying forward the lessons of their predecessors while facing challenges their masters could never have imagined. The Force flows through them all, connecting past and future, binding the galaxy together in an endless web of hope and possibility, where freedom is not taken for granted but cherished and defended by each generation, where the Jedi Order, scarred but not broken, stands as a living testament to the idea that sometimes the greatest act of love is to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. The old saying proves true. The price of freedom is eternal vigilance. But the galaxy has learned that vigilance without compassion becomes tyranny, and compassion without strength becomes victimization. The balance between these extremes, maintained by Jedi who have learned to love without attachment and fight without hatred, becomes the foundation of a new age of peace and prosperity. And in the Force, the spirits of those who died in the war look down with approval, knowing that their sacrifices preserved not just the Jedi Order, but the very idea that freedom and justice are worth any price. The galaxy they helped create is not perfect, but it is better than what came before, and it carries within it the seeds of an even brighter future. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.